Minister, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to you. I'm here to talk on behalf of the business community and what an incredibly varied business community we have. Our diversified economy has taken a generation to create. It forms the bedrock of our continued prosperity. One of the challenges in this success is the extra layer of complexity that living on an island brings. Collectively, we have overcome these challenges to date, culminating in a first-class business environment that not only allows existing businesses to flourish, but also attracts regular inward investment. A fantastic combination. At this stage, a quick advert, if I may. The 9 committees of the Chamber of Commerce cover every sector on the island, protecting interests and harnessing opportunity. Although diverse in their nature, the committees are united in their views of the current Celtic Array proposals. Simply, they are a threat to the business model of IoM plc. I do not wish to hog the stage here, so will try to keep further comments brief. I'm happy to discuss matters later. Our views are based upon assumptions that the current proposals of Celtic Array are implemented without amendment. As a result, as Mark has said, we have to assume an increased level of delays and cancellation of our supply lines. Let me focus only on 3 sectors. Firstly, and most obviously, retail. Ladies and gentlemen, the supply problems we witnessed 12 months ago are a precursor for the potential impact we may experience in the future. Our retailers experienced significant problems filling our shelves with produce and supplies. Our way of life changed, however temporarily. If this became the norm, at best we would be forced to change the way we do things, and that would be under duress. At the other end of the spectrum, we may need to accept ongoing uncertainty of supplies, on average, less fresh produce, and perhaps shortages, however temporary. Question for you, why should we? Ladies and gentlemen, I talked earlier about the IoM business model. Specifically, our successful engineering sector has developed business models to be envied, overcoming transport obstacles. Engineering has deliberately worked its way up the value chain on the island in order to develop a hugely successful, sustainable and growing sector. The words world-class are closely associated and often used. The award-winning Chamber Engineering Committee itself is a cornerstone of the sector, enjoying representation from every key business. Collectively, we achieved much, overcoming obstacles and protecting the industry. Suffice to say that these key businesses, employing 10% of the island's private sector, are united in their concerns that any disruptions to freight traffic would destroy finely tuned business models and leave them vulnerable to consumer or buyer choice from worldwide companies who would look elsewhere due to uncertainty of supply. Ladies and gentlemen, if I briefly can touch upon the visitor economy, which is more ably talked about elsewhere. Many islands businesses thrive directly or indirectly as a result of visitors, and in turn, all of us benefit from the quality of life from tourism and hospitality attractions available to us also. Visitors have many options before choosing the island as a place to spend their hard-won money. A high proportion arrive by ferry. A question for you. Would you risk visiting a holiday destination where travel delays and cancellations were in evidence? That's not for me. Ladies and gentlemen, as aforementioned and to sum up, Chamber has consulted its 9 committees on this matter, and we are united on several fronts. Firstly, pursuance of renewable energy should be a globally accepted target. Secondly, there are many options and sub-options that could be pursued. Thirdly, the most substantial of these options locally is in front of us right now, and unamended, it is a threat, direct or otherwise, to the majority of business undertaken by IoM plc. Pursuance of this entire scheme, unamended, will destroy the relative certainty of our respected business models. Our way of life will be forced to be fundamentally realigned. I have to say we were collectively encouraged by our discussions with Dong and Centrica earlier this year. However, we are now entering a critical phase with much to play for in the future of the island. I would emphasise we don't see this as a steam packet or Metzeron issue. We are proud of what we've achieved collectively and look forward to constructive dialogue in order to retain our position as a successful example of island life. Thank you.
Minister, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Theo Fleurbaay. I am the chairman of the Manx Hospitality Partnership, representing the Isle of Man's accommodation providers. As we live and work on this beautiful island, we are totally dependent on the airlines and the ferry service for our livelihood. They supply us not only with the goods we need, but in the case of our visitor industry, they transport those that wish to visit the Isle of Man for business or leisure purposes. The ferry service, for over 100 years operated by the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company, transport around half of all our visitors to the Isle of Man. It is therefore vital to our industry that we can rely on the Steam Packet's ferry service. If the wind farm developments were to go ahead in their planned locations, they will seriously obstruct and thereby alter the routes of the Steam Packet ferry. This will result in an unacceptable lengthening of journey time. Apart from discouraging passengers from making the trip from the UK to the Isle of Man, it will also have ramifications for the entire Steam Packet timetable, possibly resulting in a reduction in the overall number of crossings they are able to schedule. This, in turn, will have an adverse impact on the number of visitors to the Isle of Man. Positioning the wind farms as suggested will also reduce the option of alternate course in case of bad weather, increasing the number of cancelled sailings. Another reason for potential visitors to skip the Isle of Man and choose another destination. After all, who wants to spend valuable holiday time sitting in a terminal waiting for the next boat? A significant portion of the island's visitors come specifically to participate in a scheduled event, and we have many of scheduled events on the island. One example would be the end-to-end challenge. If there's an increased risk that competitors cannot be sure that they will arrive in time to participate, they simply won't bother coming. For the Isle of Man's already fragile tourism industry, a reduction in visitor numbers would mean a significant loss of income and raises the risk of a loss of bed spaces, as a reduced number of guests would mean businesses becoming unviable. The Manx Hospitality Partnership calls on its members and industry colleagues to support the Isle of Man Government and the Steam Packet in their negotiations for a revised plan for the Celtic Array's wind farm development. We urge Celtic Array to sit down with the Steam Packet and the Isle of Man Government to jointly discuss amendment of the plans to eliminate the risk of obstruction to our ferry services for the benefit of our visitor industry and the Isle of Man's economy. Thank you.
Minister, ladies and gentlemen, Brendan O'Friel, TravelWatch, Isle of Man. TravelWatch has met with the wind farm developers earlier this year. We've also been to two of their exhibitions which have taken place here in Douglas. And our first concern has been that the wind farm developers have not seen fit to consult with passengers, of whom you've already heard. We've got something around 500,000 travelling every year by sea. We believe that it's absolutely essential that passengers, this 500,000 people, are properly consulted about any proposed changes that will impact upon our long-established sea routes. What struck us as being particularly odd was when we went to the two consultations in the Villa Marina, we saw, rather to our surprise, maps presented, but they weren't maps like you can see there. They were maps which did not include the demonstration of where existing sea routes ran. It was as if the developers did not wish our local people to realise that there was a serious threat. What was more, they showed a very great reluctance to talk about anything other than their specific development. So one wind farm will be shown, but not a lot. And what's really important is that the Manx public understand that it is the cumulative effect, it is the combined effect of all this development that is the real threat. Now, from a passenger perspective, passengers require reliable and punctual service. Both of these are put at risk from the proposals that the wind farm developers have currently got under consideration. And of course, the onward connection for foot passengers is an important issue, and punctuality and reliability lead into that. Passengers also seek affordable services, and of course that's more difficult for the ferry company to achieve if fuel costs rise through routes becoming longer. And certainly passengers expect reasonable comfort, and that's more difficult to achieve if weather diversions are restricted and people have to spend longer upon the ferries. So taken all in all, we hope that this alliance of parties representing different aspects of Manx life will demonstrate the importance to the whole island community of taking seriously the threat of these wind farms, and in particular by people going along to the meetings that are to take place over the next week or so, and to look at the exhibitions, not to be fooled by people who don't put shipping routes on, but to ask difficult questions of developers, questions they may not wish to answer, so that our ferry routes are properly protected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. I hope the presentations here today have given you a clear overview of the situation and of the very real threat to the island's livelihood should the wind farms be allowed to proceed under the current proposals. Celtic Array is visiting Douglas, Port St Mary, you'll be glad to hear, Brendan and Ramsey this weekend for Public Information Days as part of their public consultation. I urge island residents and those within the business community to attend one of these information days and register the concerns of the Isle of Man community. Likewise, I urge the media to give these issues significant coverage to ensure that the public are as well informed as possible and to generate debate and discussion about the proposed wind farms with the developers.